Oh, so it's so lovely to meet you. Can I just check? What pronouns would you prefer for me to speak to you with?
You are joking. Let me answer that first. What pronouns? You mean he, him, she, they? Is that what you mean?
I honestly, I just want you to feel as comfortable as possible.
Look, you have to call me His Excellency.
Okay, yeah, no, sure, yeah, that's fine. So Your Excellency, I mean, what brings you to stand up? Why did you decide that you wanted to take an online stand up class?
Before I start, I don't mean to be rude, and I hope you don't take any offense, because I know we're in Britain. I I thought you were a man. Your name, I
Wrong,
thought,
yeah.
yeah, I thought you were a male stand-up teacher.
No, 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 sorry. I mean, that has happened to me before, but uh, I'm not, I'm not blessed enough to have a penis, I'm afraid.
No, hold on,
Yeah.
hold on. So you are a woman. I asked for a man. What do you know about comedy? Look, at the time, you should be cooking breakfast for your husband in the kitchen.
Yeah, I have been doing stand up for about 15 years, so fingers crossed that'll balance it all out.
But I keep hearing that women are not funny. What can you teach? I want I thought I was having a male stand-up teacher.
Well, I mean, you've certainly got a very strong point of view, so I think that will really help. When you're on stage, I think it's good. We can use this. This energy we can really use.
I I'm not so sure. My women are normally in the kitchen. No woman has ever taught me anything in my life, but I'm prepared to give it a go.
Brilliant, brilliant. So, um, what I usually find helpful, when you start doing stand up, why have you decided you want to give stand up a go? By the way.
Look, I have been under house arrest by your civilian prime minister, Boris Johnson, since March last year, and I've not been able to go back home. And what have I been doing with my time? I have been watching British comedy. Russell Kane, Regina D. Hunter, all these people on Life at the Apollo. And I'm saying to myself, I address my audience. I have large crowds of people and they find me funny. Why can't I do stand up? I'm very much interested in going on stage and making British people laugh. And I
Mhm.
know I can do it. That is what has inspired me. Being under house arrest and watching all these civilian comedians, Sarah Pascoe, I'm sure you know them all.
Mhm, mhm. And in your previous job, did you do a lot of public speaking?
Oh, I had large crowds of people, even though they had to be forced to be there. I had a large audience, big, massive, a lot, more than your comedy audiences, more than your comedy audiences. I mean, we're talking about thousands of people in town halls. Look, don't start me off. They were there. Even if I had to force them to be there, even if I had to rent a crowd, they were there.
That's amazing. Wow, that's so impressive. That's so impressive. So you feel comfortable in talking in front of an audience?
I'm sorry. Look, a leader of a great nation. Why wouldn't I be comfortable? You think I'm one of your British politicians who keep babbling rather than not able to construct a sentence? I can do this. I know I can do this. I just need the platform. Uh, you know, I have a lot to say on stage.
This is brilliant. Can I just say, I just think it's wonderful and I love your confidence. You've got a real sassy attitude. And I think that we can just really use that. And you've got such a strong voice anyway. I think it's just like finding what we need to work together is just find your inner clown. That's what we really need to find. Like your inner, the silly, President Abonjo. The bit about yourself that makes you an individual. So, what I think is helpful is, so when you're standing in front of your crowds, and you walk on stage for the first time, what do you think they see when they see you for the first time? What pops into their head, do you think? And we can play with that.
They are terrified. They are terrified. They adore me. I have developed a cult personality. Some of them are frozen, even when some of them haven't even had anything to eat. They're there watching me. They probably are frightened. They know they have to pay attention and they have to listen to what I have to say.
Okay. So like most comedians, you walk on stage and it's like, oh, I know what you're thinking. Either I'm like overweight, or I'm very short, or, I've got, crazy hair. Where you're working with, when I walk on stage, I know what you're thinking. I'm terrified. I'm forced to be here. And I'm, nervous for my life. Okay, no, that's good. At least you know what the audience are thinking when you see them for the first time. That's really important. What do you think? If we're working on material, it's great to think about what your flaws are. So like, I'm quite a people pleaser. I really need people to like me. So a lot of my jokes come from that. What do you think your flaws about yourself are?
I have no flaws whatsoever. Flaws are for weak people. I am a strong man. I have no flaw. What do you mean by flaws, by the way? You mean weaknesses?
Do you think maybe you take yourself too seriously, or you're bad with ladies, maybe you've had bad luck in your love life?
Yeah, I have 6 wives. So that I've been through many women in my life. But I wouldn't regard that as a flaw. I would regard that as spreading joy and love to the whole world and having as many Obonjos as possible while I'm still very much alive. But there was one thing you said. You spoke about material. This is material. What I am wearing is material. Is that not what you mean? I mean, what do you mean by material?
Well, so when you go on stage, it's like what you talk about, how you what you communicate with the audience. So in your usual job, what is it like? What sort of things do you usually say to the audience? And maybe we could make that funnier.
I say death to the West, death to democracy. I say death to the West, death to democracy. I talk about how we African nations, especially my country, need to be independent, need to be away from the IMF and the World Bank. They hail me. Whenever I condemn the West, they hail me. When I condemn Western democracy, my people are applauding me. They start clapping and they go into some kind of frenzy as soon as I say death to the West.
I mean, I think we can work with that. I think that's really interesting, and that's a really strong point of view. What about if we framed it as, have you ever noticed the way in the West they, are maybe more controlled, whereas we here do things this way?
Yes, yeah, I think that could work. Even though I think so. But having spent a year in this country under house arrest and watching your government, they have begun to control people.
Or could you have maybe funny observations? Have you for your time here in the UK, have you had noticed oh, that's crazy things that you British people do?
Yes, I have. I have noticed, for example, because I have been using Twitter, and I have noticed that there are quite a lot of people who condemn your government on a regular basis. They are almost like the opposition is no longer in existence. I call them the alternative to British Prime Minister. They just go on Twitter and it's as if they're frightened to actually start a revolution, which is what I think at times this country needs. So there are, I call them Twitter warriors, keyboard warriors. They just go on Twitter, and as soon as, I'm sure, if it wasn't because of the fact I was preparing for this session, I would have been watching the Andrew Marr show. And after the Andrew Marr show, people go on Twitter. Do you know what I'm talking about? Am I making sense? Yeah. So yes, that I find that really interesting. Is that, see, people can attack. For example, your dear leader Boris Johnson. Even if he doesn't comb his hair, people are attacking him for the state of his hair. I just find that really amusing. I find that, I just find it strange that you are allowed to attack what your prime minister looks like. You are allowed to attack who he dates. You are allowed to. At one point, it was last week, they were complaining that his first girlfriend has a lot of influence in who gets appointed. I just find the whole thing ridiculous. There's too much freedom of speech in your country.
I mean, I think there's loads in this. I think there's loads in this because British people love it, especially if you're gigging in the UK. British people love it when an outsider takes the piss out of them. So if you can be like, in your country, you guys, form a revolution by making snarky jokes on Twitter, whereas in my country, what would you guys do?
Well, they don't do. They can't. There's nothing. If they use the internet in a way that criticizes me, we shut it down. I say to my people, yes, you can give freedom of speech, but when you deliver that speech, there is no freedom. So they know they have to behave themselves. So if I've heard you correctly, are you saying there's a word where it says you have to compare and contrast? Maybe I can compare and contrast Laughter Republic with Britain in terms of funny observations. Is that what you are saying?
I think that would be brilliant. I think that would be absolutely brilliant. But again, we need to get to know you better as well. That's a really important bit of stand-up. It's like vulnerable, like the insecure part of yourself, like the bit of you that you're most embarrassed about. Like, what's the most embarrassing thing that ever happened to you?
Most embarrassing thing? Well, you remember when the lockdown restrictions, because I think you've had 3 or 4, I can't even remember. There was a time when your civilian prime minister gave people the opportunity to go out. And I took, because I'm not familiar with the London Underground, so I decided I was going to, do some sightseeing. I can't remember if it was after the first lockdown or second lockdown. And I took a train. And when I arrived at King's Cross, the Underground, I genuinely thought, I waved a train down because I thought, just like a boss, you can wave it down. And people were looking at me while I was on the ground trying to stop this train so that I could get in.
That's brilliant. That's really, really good. That's really, really good. Because it's showing us the ridiculous side to you. So you go on stage, you're maybe in front of like hundreds of people, and you're just showing the vulnerable, silly side to you. Have you ever done that before?
No, nobody has ever seen me in a vulnerable position. No one, not even my wives. Because you see, I, as a leader, I have, and it's the same. It is the same when I look at Boris Johnson. He's showing his vulnerability with the way he acts on stage when he addresses you. A leader should not show any vulnerability. I think that might be difficult for me to go on stage and start sharing my vulnerability. That is not something I genuinely want to do. Can't I just dictate? Can't I just stand up? Can't I just get them to stand up and start laughing without even cracking any jokes? Can't they? Is it not the same?
I think the thing is, you've shown a lot of people the president of Bungo, the dictator of Bungo. But I think what we need to see is the real Bungo.
Yeah. You know what is really interesting is you are not pronouncing my name properly. And actually, that what you said, Obongo, they might even find that funny on stage. Because if you are struggling to, because what I notice is when they are about to bring the likes of Regina D. Hunter and Omi Janali onto the stage, there is they call it an MC who pronounces, kind of like warm them. I don't even need an MC to warm the crowd up, because I do the warming up. I think I can do the warming up myself. But what worries me is, if you can't pronounce my name properly, can the MC pronounce my name properly? Can you imagine the MC coming on stage and calling me President Obongo? That in my head, I think that could even get a laugh.
Yeah, you could work with that, definitely. Really, really good. I mean, certainly loads of times my name gets mispronounced, and that sort of gives me a joke off the back of it. You can maybe reference it with them when you walk on stage.
But you know what I want to do? Because I don't want a situation where it is very similar to what other people do. Like, because I've watched British comedy a lot, and I don't want to go on stage and start talking. Oh, guess what? You got my name wrong. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because everybody talks about, especially as an African. I don't. I want something. I want something unique and different. I want to entertain the British audiences. My barometer for success is, I want you to get me onto live at the Apollo after this session.
Okay. I mean, that's not maybe that unrealistic. Who so your comedy, who would be your comedy idols? Is there anybody who you think is really funny?
Mussolini.
I don't know much of his comedy stuff. Italians are very funny, though.
Yeah, they are very funny. But when you say comedy heroes, you mean like comedians that I have seen that I could say are my hero? No, how can civilian comedians be my hero? It's impossible. It should be the other way around. I don't know. Maybe comedians, I don't see them as heroes. Maybe comedians that I like. It does that help? Is it about the comedians? Yeah. No, rather than heroes. No, it can't be civilian comedians. Civilian comedians can't be my heroes in no shape or form. Saddam Hussein, Colonel Gaddafi, because they were comical characters, comedy heroes.
Do you think your military background, could you talk about that a little bit?
Oh, yes. I think I can. And, there was one day I took a walk to Tesco, because there's no Waitrose where I am under house arrest. And I wore my uniform because I was addressing members of the public. And I just noticed when I arrived at Tesco, there was some kind of tension, because I think they thought I was a Walter Mitty, that I was pretending to be in the British Army. Because I had a few people say, what is he doing wearing that uniform? And I thought, maybe that could be something that I could use on stage that could be funny. I don't know. I've never done stand-up comedy before, so this is why I am here.
This is so good. You've so many interesting ideas, Like, you walk on stage and you could say, I know what you're thinking. I'm in the English army, but I'm actually in a different army.
Yeah.
That's good. Where do you feel the most relaxed? Sometimes before you get on stage, it's really important that you're at your most confident and your most relaxed. So what makes you feel the most relaxed, that gets you into that really playful headspace?
My 6 wives. They are always with me before I address the nation. They are behind before I go on stage addressing, they are there with me. And I always want to make sure that whenever I deliver my speech, because I have one wife for each day of the week, I always want to make sure I am delivering my speech on a Sunday, which is my day of resting. I can address my nation, and I am happier I'm in my happy mood on a Sunday that I have been through all my wives throughout the week.
And have you any like funny stories about what it's like having six wives?
I have, do I have any stories? I, times I imagine what it would be like if all my six wives were with me while I was under house arrest.
Mm-hmm.
How would we cope? How would we survive? I actually found this bit funny. So my favorite wife is the one that I sleep with on a Wednesday. And I spoke to mother the other day. We don't get on very well, but we spoke on Zoom. And so I recorded our conversation as evidence. I don't know whether that is funny. In my head, it feels like it's funny recording a conversation on Zoom with your mother-in-law. But I don't know. I have never, I don't know how these comics do it where they just go on stage and people start laughing. I don't know whether they try it out. I don't know how it works because, I've never cracked a joke in my life.
Well, I think you're a charismatic person. Like I said, you've got a very strong point of view. I think it's about just finding the vulnerability, the things that cause you problems in life, and sharing that with the audience and connecting it. So you're vulnerable, and then they get to laugh at you. They get to have that brief moment of, catharsis. You know.
I am not a buffoon. I don't want them laughing at me. I don't want them seeing me like my late father, Idi Amin Dada, who they saw as a comical character. I want them to laugh with me. I have messages that I want to deliver to the British electorate or audiences, or crowd. I want the room to be packed, to be full, like I normally would have it if I was delivering a political address.
Is there something, sometimes a lot of comedians, they use their platform to like talk about racism or to talk about social injustice. Is there any sort of like issue that you feel really passionate about that maybe you could talk about on stage?
Oh, definitely. I think democracy is organized crime.
Mm-hmm.
Democracy is a virus, and we need to find a way of flattening the curve. So I genuinely want to be in a position where I am talking to your people about the flaws of democracy and how let I give you an example. I give you an example. Democracy has been in existence who knows how long, for a long time. And I have also not just been watching your comics, I have been watching your politicians. They can't seem to fix anything. It's like the NHS. They can't fix the NHS. They can't fix education. They can't fix unemployment. Every time there is an election, these same subjects are spoken about regularly. It doesn't matter whether you're on the left or the right of the political movement. They can't seem to fix anything. So I think there is an alternative. I bring an alternative view to the British people.
And what would be your, because sometimes it's good to come up with like a comedy solution. So, that silly answer to a problem. So what would be your comedy answer to the problem of democracy?
It is a virus and we need to flatten it. We need to find a vaccine for it that eradicates it. It is an infectious disease. We need, these are just ideas that I have, that we need to suspend democracy. We need to protect it, lock it up, and find another alternative.
My only worry is if you only have 5 minutes, it might be hard to fit a call to end democracy just into your first 5 minutes.
Hold on. Why 5 minutes? Why would they give a world leader 5 minutes to talk to a crowd of people? Why?
Well, so what will happen is, like, once you start doing stand up, is you sort of have to build up your time. So if you're on a sort of a usual comedy night, especially if you're a new act, you would just be doing a short 5 minute set in the middle of other acts doing longer. And then if you overrun, they will give you a red light.
Hold on. So not only will they give me 5 minutes, they will regard me as a new act, even though I have been president of a great nation for 11 years. Don't they take into account my status, my cult personality? Who are these people who decide that it's only 5 minutes and I am a new act?
Well, it's just if you don't play the big clubs a lot, it's just very hard to get stage time, unfortunately.
Okay. But that's where I have you.
Well, great. So that's we're going to work on those 5 minutes. If we can get as many ideas about the call of the end to democracy, your six wives, and maybe how the West is failing compared to your country, if we can get like that into like a nice tight 5 minutes, then if 6 months, maybe a year down the line, you could be looking at 10 minutes.
You're joking.
And then
You are joking. I do 5 minutes for a year and then this feels like, are you serious or are you having a laugh? Is this your way of making me so I do 5 minutes for a year and then when do I do an hour? When do I do 2 hours?
well, there's this thing. So you could do the Edinburgh Festival. The only problem is you could do, let's say, an hour on the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. The only problem is, audience wise, you could be looking at maybe like 5, 10 people on a good day, just when you're starting out. And then, maybe 5, 10 years down the line, once we get you on Live the Apollo, we could be looking at bigger numbers.
Wow. So how long do you think it will get me? How long would it take for me to be recognized as a professional stand-up comedian?
Well, luckily for you, the BBC are looking to really develop right wing comedy talent. So I think you've got a real niche there. I think if you can represent yourself as like the only Tory comedian, I can definitely see you being on Mock the Week in a few months' time.
Did you say Tory? But I'm not conservative. I'm the least democratic leader. Look at how I'm dressed. I'm undemocratic. How could I be seen as right wing?
Well, I think this is even brilliant because there's always complaints about too many left wing comedians. There's very few authoritarian dictator comedians on the circuit.
Yes.
There's
Yes.
very few. I can't think off the top of my head of any other anti democracy stand up comedians on the circuit, which means you definitely have a niche.
Ah, that is that. Look, I have to say to you, I am very, very impressed with what you have just said, and you've really changed my mind about women just being in the kitchen cooking for their husbands, but boyfriends.
Thank you. That
But
means a lot to me. Thank you.
but yes, so you are talking of niche. When you say niche, do you mean a unique selling point that it's I'm the only one who will be doing that?
You're the only sort of like, why not give dictatorship a try? Comedian I can think of on the circuit. I could be wrong, but I think definitely that sort of. I haven't heard of anybody else doing material from that point of view. And I think just from a box ticking perspective, they will be looking for talent that represents that community.
Wow. Even though Britain is not under a dictatorship.
Yeah.
I
I think
like
it's
this.
exciting.
I like this. I like this. When can we start? When can you start getting me gigs?
Okay, so what I'll need you to do is just maybe before I see you next, you to journal. Just really dig deep into your thoughts. I want you to think of your flaws, times you made mistakes, embarrassing things about yourself. Maybe your last job as a dictator, maybe funny things happened while you're, leading a country. if any funny things happened in the workplace or in your office or anything like that. Audiences love all that. And then think of like how you present, the advantages of dictatorship, but like in a bit of a funny way. And maybe do a few like, in democracy you do this, but in dictatorships we do that. I think there's loads there. I think it's a really exciting topic.
Can I ask, are you left wing or right wing?
I'm professionally left wing.
This is really ridiculously funny. I think that a left wing stand up teacher is teaching me how to do stand up. Do you think the British people will find me funny?
I think you are the voice of a silent majority in this country. And I think, like I said, there's a big gap, there's a big market for this. And I really think a fresh, sassy take on the far, 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 far right. I think, why not? I haven't heard it before. Let's give it a go.
There is somebody who saw me. This is what I don't seem to understand, because I have never done stand-up comedy. But I remember that same day I went to Tesco and I was having a chat with someone. And this person then said, oh, and this is one of many reasons why I am talking to you now. He said that, oh, you make a good stand-up comedian. Have you ever heard of Al Murray, the pub landlord?
Mm-mm.
And I didn't understand the connection between Al Murray and myself, because I was just going out there to get some Viagra. And yeah, I just didn't understand it.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's very different. He's a character act. So that's sort of a different thing.
Okay.
So that's just somebody pretending to be like an extreme character. So I don't really know. I think she was just a little bit confused. But he's still very successful. So,
So would the British audience see me as a president performing stand-up, or a president doing stand-up in uniform? Or are they actually, my worry is, are they going to take me seriously? Will they see me as a stand-up comedian, or will they see me as, I don't know, a character act?
well, maybe if, I don't know like how many sort of, war crimes or things like that you committed, but maybe you could start or finish your act by like reading out evidence of your political record. That'd be a great way of going, ha ha ha, but like, I'm also serious. Just to differentiate, because that would be really annoying. You don't want people to think that it's like just a silly costume.
Yeah, which is what I was accused of.
Some people like might think I'm not even Irish, like that's, offensive in itself.
Okay. I'm ready. I'm ready for this. I'm ready.
I just think, honestly, I'm so excited to work with you. I think there is so much there. I think really be like, we see president, on the posters or whatever. Forget that. Now we want to see the real president, the vulnerable, the lovable, the human side. I think once you show the public that, they will fall in love with you.
Thank you very much. I have to say the vulnerability one is the one that is a bit challenging for me, because in my country and where I come from, you shouldn't show your vulnerability in public. You should always be strong. So that is one bit that I need to carefully consider.
But once you have that, that's the key. That's the secret.
Okay.
Let them see your clown.
Okay. So what next?
Well, I think I'm going to give you homework. I want you to go watch some of your favorite sort of like stand-ups for inspiration. So some of the people, I'm not aware of all of them, but see, watch, what they do, maybe make notes about what you find inspiring about it.
Is there any comedians that you would recommend that I watch based on what? Because I know they're
Uh,
all civilians, but is there anyone that you think in Britain?
let me think. Who's the nearest to a dictator in UK comedy? I would say Tom Allen is not a military dictator, but he has basically invaded every single television show at the moment. And I think he must have some military power or something. There's something going on. So I would maybe watch some of his stuff.
Did you call? Is it Tommy Allen or Tom Allen?
Tom Allen.
And it's spelled Alenig.
Allen.
Okay, okay, Tom
I think he's
Allen.
good. I
Okay,
think, yeah, I think it'll be interesting.
okay.
Just get lots of inspirations from different things.
Maybe you could put him in touch with me. Maybe we could have a chat. But I
Mm-mm-mm-mm.
really, I really want to do this. I am genuinely, I want to do this like now, right? It's like I'm not getting any younger. I want to do it now. I am excited by what
Well,
you
do you
had to
have
say.
anything? Do you have any like jokes or something that you want to try out?
Jokes that I want to try out.
Or like a funny story, a funny anecdote?
Funny anecdote. What is an anecdote?
It's just like, a true story from your life.
A true story from real life. Let me see. I have this idea. Actually, I found out this morning. I was doing some research because a lot of people think that my father is the late Idi Amin Dada because they always say that I remind him or remind them of my father. So this is just an idea. So I was thinking maybe if I came up with a story that said that I was his illegitimate son because he had an affair with a woman in Nigeria, and that's why people don't know me. And then I am trying to prove to the world by taking a DNA test to prove that Idi Amin Dada is my father. Because I have to say to you, why would I wake up one morning at the age of 45 wearing an army uniform, calling myself President Obonjo, if I didn't believe that he is my father? So I don't know whether that is funny, but I just thought, so I don't know whether this happens to comics. You have an idea of what you think is funny in your head, and until you try it, you don't know. But I think there's something funny about me trying to prove to the world that Idi Amin Dada is my father. So, for example, today, before I spoke to you, I was doing some research and I had no idea that Idi Amin Dada had his own coin, his own money, and I have my own money, and we post together in the same way. And I just thought, wow, you don't need DNA test anymore. That is proof.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that makes sense, but those are the sort of things that you see, I don't write things down. They're all just in my head because I believe I am an intelligent man. The West will say I'm delusional, but I just think I genuinely think I am funny already. Actually, I just need that platform. That's my belief. I just need the platform to show people that I can do stand up.
Well, I think a lot of Edinburgh shows are about comedians talking about their dead dads. So if your dead dad is Idi Amin, I mean, that's a real hook. You could really get reviewers in to see that. It's definitely an emotional journey.
No, it is an emotional journey because, look at me. It is 12:17 on a Sunday, and I am in uniform at home under house arrest.
It's great. Comedy is pain. Comedy is pain. You have this pain, this journey. You're under house arrest, exiled from your country. Use that.
Thank you. I would. So, yes. So, Yeah, I believe I've got jokes, even though I haven't written them down. They're just in my head. You know, I
Mhm.
because I'm the sort of person when I deliver speeches, you know, it's not, I don't need teleprompter. I just know what I want. And then I put some humor. And even before I even say anything, my people are laughing. And they're laughing with me, not at me, laughing with me.
And when you give your speeches, do you ever like ad lib, or do things ever come into your head if you're giving, in your past job when you were giving, your
Yeah,
speech?
yes. I don't know what you mean by ad lib, but I just stuff that I wasn't thinking of talking about just comes from this. You know, I just remember something or the response from my people. So when I say death to the west, and they start screaming, hey, I just come up with something else, and even
Maybe so catchphrases are very important in comedy. So maybe you could use some of your old catchphrases, and
mm,
that could be like your stand-up catchphrase. And then when you're walking down the street, people who know you, recognize you, will be shouting the catchphrases at you,
mm,
you
okay,
know?
yeah.
I mean, I think there's loads in this. I think you've got a really strong voice. I think
You're
you've
not
got
just
there's
saying that
lo-
because you're frightened.
you're in the UK now. This is the thing. You're going to finally going to realize that people find you funny for you, not just what you have the ability to do to their family. And I think for your self-confidence that will make a big difference.
Okay, yeah. So if I've heard you correctly, you are telling me that I have transferable skills moving from a leader of a country addressing an audience to actually doing stand-up comedy addressing an audience. I am fascinated. I
100%.
I am fascinated. My wives were even complaining I'm spending too much time watching British comedy.
And the thing is, loads of comedians do mother-in-law jokes. You can do 6 different mother-in-law jokes.
Mm,
Think of the advantage that gives you.
mm,
How
mm.
expensive Valentine's Day must be at your house.
Oh, very expensive. Very expensive. Yeah, I like this. I like this. I thank you so much. You have really given me some real good pointers.
You know what? I think the two of us are going to go on a journey together. I think we're an unlikely pair, but I think ultimately we're both going to learn a lot from each other.
Why do you say unlikely? It's not like I proposed to marry you or something.
No, but I mean, maybe we both sort of have different political opinions. And
Oh,
I think
oh,
a lot of people would assume that we wouldn't get on. But I think through the process of working together, we'll realize maybe we're not so different.
this is why the West gets me wrong. I'm happy you said that. You should let them know that I'm not a bad person. Look at how we've been talking for well over an hour. And there's something you guys called chemistry. It's working. If this wasn't working, there's no way we would have been talking up till now. Yes,
Mhm.
I'm excited.
Brilliant. Let's do it.
Yes, let's do it. If you contact my people for the next session, and we will arrange to send you a check for today's session, unless it's free.
Well, I was a bit confused because I received my payment, but it seemed to be in sort of currency that I didn't quite recognize, and the email was a bit confusing.
Yeah, the currency is called Laughter Republic currency. We replaced it from chicken giblets. It's
Okay.
stronger. It's stronger than the pound. So you get
Okay.
double whatever you asked for. But don't worry about the email address. This is more to do with security. We have to secure. There are lots of scammers since this lockdown. So you will get your payment. You will get your
Okay.
payment. You will get your payment.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, well, let's keep in touch.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about working with you. And yeah, just think about your vulnerability, wacky stories from, your previous job. And I think we're looking at, like I said, with your unique selling point, mainstream UK success in about a year.
Yeah. We'll see. I want it sooner. I want it like now. I don't think I can wait a year. Is my success dependent on me or dependent on you finding? I mean, how do I get gigs, for example? How do I
So
get booked?
you'll need to email different promoters with sort of a sort of list of the gigs you've done. If you've any short clips, do you have any clips of you performing?
No, well, performing to my people. I've never ever been on stage performing stand up.
Well, if there's any bits of you, if of like maybe your speeches that maybe are funnier, you could edit that to make it look like it's a stand-up set.
Okay, okay,
So if you send that to performers or to people who book gigs, and then if you've got any, do you have any like quotes, any reviews, or any journalists things that people have written about you?
oh yes, my UN speech where I asked the West to I don't want to swear, where I was condemning the West, that went down very, very well. Lots of reviews from Newsweek, all these major mainstream organizations. They said it was really first time that an African leader has been really outspoken.
Brilliant, brilliant. So what you need to do is any of the quotes that you think might be useful, just clip them out. So add any bit of your speeches that might be funny, stick that in. Then any quotes that out. It doesn't matter if it's out of context, like startling or I'll never forget that. Brilliant. Put that into the email. Then just say your availability, and yeah, and then maybe email if you sort of look up comedy producers, that are booking TV shows that you think would be suitable for. If you send them an email, a little bio describing your background, stuff
Okay.
like that. You just want to get your name out. Maybe you can make little YouTube videos, go on TikTok. You just want to build up a following.
Yeah, yeah. I remember the review from Newswatch, UN. They said I was bombastic. Do you think that would work? That was
Amazing.
oh,
Yeah, fantastic.
okay, okay.
Fantastic. Perfect. I think Tom Allen's been described as bombastic as well. Brilliant.
Wow.
Perfect. Really, really good.
Yeah,
You just want to stand out.
I genuinely, if you're saying this, Tommy Allen is has the some of the dictator characteristics, then I would want to meet him. But I will watch his clip. But look, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
You're comfortable with this. You really want to be my stand-up teacher.
I think it's brilliant. I just love working with new, exciting talent. And just like, it's great to have just different voices in comedy. And I think what you definitely have is a unique voice. So I think that's so exciting.
Look, thank you so much. I have to go now. You've done really well because you for someone who dictates, it should be the other way around, but it's okay. I am prepared to learn, and I think I have mellowed since I have been on exile here. I have mellowed a little bit, but thank you. You can go now. Go and cook for your husband.
Your Royal Excellency, it's been so great chatting to you.
Thank you very much.